10 years ago, I was Marcus Stone, CEO of Stone Holdings. I owned office towers, shopping centers, luxury apartment buildings. I had a penthouse, a yacht, a wife who smiled for cameras, and a daughter I actually loved. Then came the diagnosis. My daughter Lily, leukemia, the kind that doesn't wait. I spent everything. Sold the yacht, sold the penthouse, sold my shares, sold every building I owned, one by one, to pay for treatments, specialists, clinical trials. My wife couldn't handle it. She left, said it was too much. I didn't blame her. I didn't have energy to blame anyone. Lily fought for 3 years. She was brave, braver than me. When she finally passed, I was sitting in a hospital hallway, holding a teddy bear she'd had since she was 3. I didn't cry, I just sat there. Empty, the medical bills didn't stop. They never stop. I sold the last building, a small office tower downtown, to pay the final debts. The buyer was a corporation I'd never heard of, some holding company. I signed the papers without reading them. I didn't care anymore. Within a year, I was on the streets. Not because I had to be, because I stopped caring about everything. The world had taken my daughter. Nothing else mattered. I slept in doorways, ate from dumpsters, became invisible, and somewhere along the way, I stopped being Marcus Stone altogether. I first saw him 6 months ago, stepping out of a black car in front of a restaurant I used to own. The building, my old office tower, now housed his company's headquarters. I recognized the address immediately. I'd signed it away in that hospital hallway. He walked past me like I was part of the sidewalk. Didn't glance, didn't slow down, just dropped a half-smoked cigar near my feet and kept walking. I picked up the cigar, not to smoke, just to remind myself that I used to be someone, that I used to matter. Every Tuesday, Jonathan Pierce had dinner at that restaurant. Every Tuesday, I sat across the street and watched, not stalking, just remembering. Remembering when I walked through those doors and people held them open for me. Then one Tuesday, something different happened. He was eating alone that night, unusual. Normally he had clients, partners, people to impress. But this night he sat by the window, scrolling his phone, eating a steak. I watched him take a bite. Then another. Then he stopped. His hand went to his throat. His face changed. He was choking. I've seen people choke before. On the streets, you see everything. The panic, the desperation, the way people freeze because they don't know what to do. Jonathan stood up, knocked over his chair. People at nearby tables stared but didn't move. A waiter ran over, helpless. Jonathan's face was turning purple. Mumbler, I didn't think. I just moved. I ran through the restaurant door, grabbed him from behind, wrapped my arms around his chest, and pulled. Once. Twice. 3 times. On the 4th pull, the steak flew out and hit the floor. He collapsed to his knees, gasping, coughing, crying. I stood there, breathing hard, my heart pounding. A waiter handed him water. Someone called an ambulance. Jonathan looked up at me, really looked at me for the first time. Dirty clothes, unwashed hair, tired eyes. He reached into his pocket, pulled out a 20 and held it out. Get yourself a meal, he said, still catching his breath. Then he turned away, already reaching for his phone, already moving on. I took the 20. Not because I needed it, because I wanted to remember. I wanted to remember the moment the man with everything looked at the man with nothing and saw. Nothing. I walked back to the sidewalk and sat down. The 20 was still in my hand. I stared at it for a long time. Then I made a decision. The next morning, I went to the library. Free internet. Free warmth. Free everything. I logged into an account I hadn't accessed in 3 years. My old business email. My old holdings. My old life. There were thousands of unread messages. Most were spam. But one caught my eye. Subject line important. Stone Holdings asset transfer. Donda. I opened it. Read it. Read it again. When I sold my last building to that holding company, I'd signed without reading. Turns out, I didn't sell it outright. I'd structured a deal years earlier, a safety net I'd completely forgotten about. The building was in a trust. My trust. And the holding company? They were just managers, legal operators, but the building was still technically mine. And not only that, the trust had grown. Investments I'd made years ago before Lily got sick had matured. There was money, more money than I'd had at my peak. Menja. I sat in that library chair and stared at the screen for an hour. Jonathan Pierce's company occupied the top 3 floors of my building. They'd signed a 10-year lease with my signature, my name, my building. I pulled up the lease agreement, read the fine print, and there it was, a clause I'd put in myself years ago, back when I was careful, back when I paid attention. Cat. Landlord reserves the right to terminate this lease with Sansers day's notice for any reason, with no penalty. Hospital. I'd written that clause to protect myself from bad tenants. I never thought I'd use it against someone who didn't even know my name. I closed the computer, walked outside, sat on the library steps, and watched the city move around me. I had a choice to make. Over the next month, I worked. Not on the streets. I still slept there. I still ate from food banks. I stayed invisible. But I worked. Every morning, I went to the library. Every afternoon, I met with lawyers, old contacts who barely recognized me but took my calls when they heard the dollar amounts. Every evening, I watched Jonathan Pierce walk out of his office and get into his black car. I learned everything about him. His company was struggling, big losses, bad investments, was desperate to impress investors, which was why he was having solo dinners at fancy restaurants, calls with potential backers, trying to save his empire. And the building was his last asset, his headquarters. If he lost it, his investors would panic, his company would collapse. And I held the keys. And he had no idea. 30 days before the eviction notice would arrive, I started writing. A letter, not angry, not cruel, just honest. Dear Mr. Pierce, you don't know me, but we've met. I'm the man who saved your life outside the restaurant. The man you gave $20 to. The man you didn't see. I used to be someone too. I used to have what you have. Then life took it away. This building you're sitting in, it used to be mine. And now, legally, it still is. You have 30 days to vacate. This is not revenge. This is a reminder. Be careful who you step over. You never know who might be holding the ladder. I signed it, Marcus Stone. I delivered the letter myself, not by mail. In person, I waited outside the building until I saw him arrive. Sir, I am, same as always. Black suit, perfect hair, stride like he owned the world. I stepped forward. Blocked his path. He stopped, looked at me with annoyance, then recognition flickered. You're the guy, he said. You from the restaurant here for another 20? I didn't smile. I just held out the envelope. Read this, I said, today, before you do anything else. He looked at the envelope, looked at me. Something in my face made him pause. Count, what is this? A reminder, I said, that the world is smaller than you think. I turned and walked away. Didn't look back. I found a spot across the street and sat down. Watched him stand there, envelope in hand, confused. Then he went inside. I waited. 2 hours later, he came out. Walked straight toward me. His face was pale. His hands were shaking. Marcus Stone, he said. You're Marcus Stone? I nodded. He sat down on the sidewalk next to me. Didn't care about his expensive suit. Just sat. And I Googled you, he said. You had everything. What happened? I told him. About Lily. About the hospital. About selling everything. About losing my wife. About losing myself. He listened. Didn't interrupt. When I finished, he was quiet for a long time. I have a daughter, he finally said. She's 7. I work all the time. I barely see her. I tell myself it's for her future. But honestly, I think I'm just scared. Scared of being nobody. I looked at him, really looked. For the first time, I didn't see a CEO. I saw a man. Flawed. Human. Lost in his own way. I'm not evicting you, I said. He looked up surprised. The building is yours, I continued, when not as a tenant, as a partner. I want in, not money, not control, just a seat at the table. And one condition, Deld. What condition? Jozzle, you take your daughter to dinner, tonight, and every Tuesday night after that, no phones, no work, just her. He stared at me, tears formed in his eyes. Why? He whispered. Why would you do this? I stood up, brushed off my dirty clothes. Because my daughter taught me that the only thing that matters is who shows up for you. I showed up for her. She knew that, and that's the only thing I did right, be better than I was. You still have time. Donned. I walked away, didn't look back. 3 months later, I'm not on the streets anymore. I have an apartment, small, clean, a bed that's mine. I'm on the board of Jonathan's company now. I show up to meetings in a suit. People shake my hand. They don't know where I was a year ago. They don't need to. Jonathan kept his promise. Every Tuesday he has dinner with his daughter. He showed me photos once. She's 7, dark hair, big smile. She reminds me of Lily. Last week, he invited me to join them, just the three of us. Pizza. Laughter. A little girl who asked me why I live alone. I told her I used to have a daughter too. She got sick. She died. The little girl looked at me with those 7-year-old eyes and said, "Maybe you can be my grandpa now?" My other grandpa lives far away. Jonathan didn't say anything, just looked at me, nodded. So now I have dinner with them every Tuesday. Pizza. Stories. A little girl who calls me Grandpa Marcus. Jonathan's company is doing better. Not because of me. Because he stopped running from his life and started living it. And me? I'm still figuring it out. But I'm not invisible anymore. Not to him. Not to her. Not to myself. The building still stands. I walk past it sometimes. Remember the day I saved a man's life and he gave me $20. Remember the day I gave it back in a way he never expected. Life is strange. You lose everything. You find something. You lose it again. And somehow, if you're lucky, you find something new. My daughter used to say, "You daddy, everyone is just waiting to be seen." She was right. I see Jonathan now. He sees me. And every Tuesday night, we both see a little girl who brought 2 broken men back to life. Yeah, it's been a year now. I'm still on the board. Still have dinner every Tuesday. Still figuring out who I am without Lily. But here's what I've learned. Revenge is empty. It fills nothing. Heals nothing. What matters is connection. Seeing people, really seeing them. The CEO at his fancy restaurant. The homeless man on the sidewalk. We're all just people trying to find our way. Jonathan learned that. I learned it again. And a 7-year-old girl taught us both. They called me homeless. They called me nothing. They walked past me like I was part of the pavement. But here's what they didn't know. I wasn't nothing. I was someone waiting to be seen. And when someone finally saw me, really saw me, it changed everything. Not because I had money. Not because I owned a building. Because I mattered to someone. And that's the only thing that ever really matters. If you enjoyed this story, subscribe for more tales of second chances, hidden identities, and the power of being seen. Click the bell for notifications. And remember, look around you today. You never know who might be waiting to be seen.